Lesson 3.8, Introduction to the Frames and Arrows Routine. Our learning target for today is I can use frames and arrows. This diagram right here is called a frames and arrows diagram. Frames and arrows diagrams consist of frames. Frames are shapes, like this box, that are connected by arrows, like these. Each arrow represents a rule. The arrow rule determines the number that goes in the next frame. Let's see how we do frames and arrow problems. The first thing we do when we're doing a frames and arrows problem is we need to take a look at our rule. As you can see, our rule is count up by ones. Another way to say this rule is add one or plus one. So boys and girls, we use this rule, and every time we see an arrow, we need to do the rule to know what number to put into the next frame. So we're going to add one at our first arrow. So as you can see, I did some work over here. I started with 3, I added 1, the answer was 4. And so now we're going to put 4 in our next frame. Now I look, I have an arrow, so I need to go right up here again and think, what do I need to do? My rule is count up by ones or add 1. So now I'm going to use this number, which is 4, and I'm going to add 1. And when I do that, the answer is 5. This answer will go into our next frame. The next thing we need to do is we have another arrow. So our rule is add 1. So I'm going to put that rule up there again so remember what it is. We're starting at 5. So down here, I made another math problem. 5 plus 1 equals 6. And I'll put my next number in here. The last one we need to do is we have another arrow. So we know at our arrows that we need to add 1. And boys and girls, then we take a look. We start with our 6 from here. We add 1 and we come up with 7. So we put 7 into our last frame. So boys and girls, this is how we complete a frames and arrows problems. Let's take a look at another problem. Again, when we do these problems, the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our rule to see what we need to do. Our rule says count back by 2s. So another way to say counting back by 2 is subtract 2 or minus 2. So today we're going to be counting back and thinking minus 2. Okay? So boys and girls, one way we could do, and our starting number here is not written in, but I'll put it in. Our starting number is going to be the number 12. So boys and girls, we could do this 2 ways. We could do some subtraction problems like I have listed here, or we could use our number line. So right now, boys and girls, I want you to get to a place where you can be putting your finger on your number line on your desk. Do this now. So boys and girls, when we look at this frames and arrows problems, we know that our first number is 12. And we need to do count back by 2. So on our number line, I want everyone to put your finger on 12 and count back 2 right now. 1, 2. Your finger should be on the number 10. So when we counted back by 2 at this arrow, we ended up at the number 10. As you can see, that would be the same thing as 12 take away 2 equals 10. Keep your finger on the number 10 because we have another arrow, so we need to take away 2 more. So we're going to jump back 2, 1, 2. And your finger should have landed on the number 8. As you can see, if we take a look at our next subtraction problem that I did on the board here, 10 take away 2 equals 8. We have another arrow, so we know at our arrows we need to do take away 2. So your finger right now should be on 8. And we're going to jump back 2 or subtract 2. So go 1, 2. Your finger should have landed on the number 6. Again, looking at our problem that I did on our chart here, 8 take away 2 equals 6, the number that we put into our frame. Lastly, we have one arrow left, and we know from our rule here that we count back by 2s at our arrow. So again, take away 2 at our arrow. And we're going to be on the number 6 to start on our number line. And we're going to count back 2. Do this now. 1, 2. We should have landed on the number 4. And if you take a look at my problem here, we have 6 take away 2 equals 4. Okay, boys and girls, now we're going to try to do some frames and arrows problems on our own. Please get your math journal and open to page 41 now. So for number 1, if we take a look at our rule box, our rule says count up by 2s. When we look at our first frame, our number that we're going to start on is number 10. If you can see, they have provided us with a number line to help us do our counting. So boys and girls, the first thing that we're going to do is get our finger on number 10. Do this now. So boys and girls, when we start on 10, we can do 2's jumps. So again, we're going to count 1. We're going to start on 10 and go 1, 2, and stop at our next number, which is 12. And they've already written that in the box. Then we're going to count 2 more. 1, 2, and our next stop is at 14. So we're going to write 14 in our box right now. The next thing is we need to go count up by 2 more, so we're going to go 1, 2, from 14 to 16. And in our next box, we're going to write 16. When we move our next arrow, we're going to go 2 more and count up by 2, and we land on 18. So we write 18 in our next box. Lastly, we're going to start at 18, count up 2, 1, 2, and we end at 20. So we write 20 in our last box.
Is that like one of those videos?
Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2, our rule is add 5. Another way we could look at this, boys and girls, is that we know that this arrow means that every time there is an arrow, we're going to add 5. So sometimes it might help us to think or write above our arrow, add 5. So right now, I'm just going across my paper and reminding myself that every time there's an arrow, I need to add 5. With this problem, boys and girls, it starts at 0. So we need to right now get our finger on our number line at 0. Now, if you know how to count by 5s, you might not need to use the number line. But right now, we're going to use the number line. They've done the first 2 frames for us. So they've done add 5 from 0 to 5, the first jump, and written it. And then 5, they count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and end at 10. Our next jump would start at 10, because that's the frame we're at, and we would add 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we end at 15. And we would put 15 in the box. So now we're going to do the last 2 frames by ourselves, and then we'll come back and check it. Do this now. Okay, boys and girls, let's take a look and see how you did finishing this frames and arrows by yourself. We left off at the number 15. So we're going to start at 15 and add 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we ended at 20. So I write that in my frame. Check your answer. Lastly, we go from 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 25, and we put that in our box. We're going to complete the rest of this page by ourselves now. Do this now.